Among the many issues being discussed at the DCI winter meetings is a very important issue about licensing. Not just licensing to arrange music, but licensing to sync that music to video and even to sample some original works that are used in shows. It's just a multi-tentacled problem. It's like the octopus of problems for the DCI Board of Directors and for the voting membership. With me is Rick Valenzuela, Core Director of Phantom Regiment. Rick, Phantom plays a lot of music from composers who have passed, and their music is part of public domain.
Right.
So you bring a kind of a unique perspective to this argument. What are the kinds of issues that are being decided here, and just kind of your overall thoughts on it?
Well, as our organization and activity grows and we keep getting bigger and bigger, the stage comes to us and we're on stage more, and more issues are getting brought up to the public. As more popular as the activity gets, these publishers are starting to realize how much impact we have on their music. And so there are so many different levels of, from video sync licensing and the permission to arrange and perform, that it's very important that all the cores, pay attention to all these licensing differences and issues to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row. And it's tough. It really is. It takes and it's a long process.
One of the things that has been part of the discussion here is, what if one core does something that costs more in licensing? Should the entire collective have to pay for that? Now, as I mentioned, a lot of what you play is in public domain.
Right.
But yet, as part of the collective called Drum Corps International, Phantom Regiment shares part of the burden for paying for the music licensing costs of other corps that are using modern composers, right?
True, yeah. So, a lot of our stuff doesn't cost as much as what, let's say, like some Santa Clara Vanguard stuff they're doing. But it's part of the association. It's what our association does. It's one of the benefits of being a member of Drum Corps International is that those minor things, so Santa Clara might have cost DCI a little bit more than the regiment did because all of our stuff is public domain. But as part of the association, it's one of the benefits that we see as being part of Drum Corps International to cover those things. And in terms of the overall cost, I think we saw today that the licensing is $216,000 of DCI's budget. Sometimes the regiment isn't a whole lot of that, and sometimes we are. But as part of the association, we all pitch in for all those different costs, and sometimes it's us wins in the favor, and sometimes it's somebody else. But we see it as it's all part of the organization's benefits to all the corps involved.
Rick said at one point during the meeting, we play dead people. But even if you're playing dead people, so to speak, like Puccini, sometimes licensing is still an issue. Tell me about your situation this year.
Well, currently, we thought Turned Out would be a, public domain. But unfortunately, since he never finished the opera, the arranger who ended up finishing it, the composer ended up finishing it, we're waiting for him to sign off and give us the full permission to arrange and perform licenses. Talking to Jenny Paulson, who's DCI's person who handles all the licensing, they're in Italy and they take a little bit longer. So we're still having our fingers crossed that we won't have any issues.
Well, and speaking of length of time, that's the other big issue here. It's not just cost. It's you have to start this ball rolling way early on before the summer to make sure all of those things are in line, or as happened with one corps this past summer, you may end up with a few seconds blacked out on the video.
Well, I think, Dan Farrell, our program director, he actually put this in September. Before we made the public announcement, he was talking to Jenny about, here's what we're thinking, what do you think, and, put the paperwork way back then. And so sometimes, we had the issue in 2008 where we got permission to arrange and perform all the pieces of our music, except for this 14 seconds we couldn't get the video sync because the composer didn't like how we chopped up his piece of music. I understand that his piece of music is, it was a 15, 20-minute long piece, and we only used maybe a minute of it. And so originally he gave us permission to perform and arrange, so that was all fine and dandy until we went to get the video sync licenses, which didn't happen until later on. Now I think Jenny's trying to get all that stuff done sooner, but the time it takes is tremendous.
Can you start planning your 2014 show now, please?
It's one of these days. That's when it's come down to. Start looking ahead and figure out, okay, what can we play, without getting in any issues.
Well, anybody who purchased the DVDs or the Blu-rays and, for instance, watched Madison Scouts saw the portion that was blacked out. That's something none of us and nobody in this room wants, and that's why music licensing is a very important topic being discussed here at the winter meetings.